Picture this. It's a quiet weekday night. Everyone else in the house is already asleep, and you're sitting on the edge of your bed with your phone glowing in the dark. You open that investing app, the one you finally set up 2 years ago because some article told you that responsible adults are supposed to be doing this. And there it is, your balance, $6,100. You've been feeding this thing every single month, quietly, without fail, skipping the dinners out and telling yourself that it matters. And you stare at that number, and you feel almost nothing at all. No pride, no momentum, no real sense that anything is actually happening. Just a flat, hollow little voice in the back of your head, asking the same question it always asks. Is this actually working? Or am I just slowly pouring money into a hole and calling it discipline? Here is the thing I want you to understand, because I have spent an almost embarrassing amount of time thinking about this exact feeling. That hollow, underwhelmed feeling you get staring at a small balance is not a sign that you are failing. It is the single most misunderstood moment in all of personal finance, and it is the moment where almost everybody quietly gives up. Compounding does not fail people. The timeline is what fails people, because nobody ever tells you how long the boring part actually lasts. There is a specific, almost mathematical moment when your money stops feeling like patience and starts feeling like power. And if you do not know what that moment looks like, you will walk away from the table right before the good part begins. So tonight I want to show you exactly where that moment lives, what it feels like from the inside, and how to survive long enough to reach it. Let's go back to that small, unimpressive balance glowing on your screen, because there is a reason it feels so anticlimactic. In the early years of investing, almost all of your account growth comes from your own contributions, not from the market doing anything clever. If you put in $300 a month for a year at a normal 10% return, you have personally contributed $3,600, and the market, that mythical wealth-building machine everyone talks about, has generously handed you back maybe $200. So you look at the screen and you think, cool, I made $200, and technically that is true, but it completely misses the point of what is happening. Because in these early years you are not really investing yet, you are building something, and the building phase always looks like nothing. Think about rolling a snowball at the very top of a long, quiet hill on a cold winter morning. In the beginning you are doing every bit of the work yourself, packing the snow with your bare hands, kneeling in the cold, shaping something that barely holds together. The hill is not helping you yet. The ball is embarrassingly small, your fingers are freezing, and part of you wonders why anyone ever called this a good idea. But underneath all that effort, the snowball is quietly growing, slowly, invisibly, gathering just enough size and weight to change what happens next. And at some precise point it becomes heavy enough that when you finally let it roll, the slope itself takes over the work. Suddenly you are not the engine anymore. Gravity is, physics is, and your only job becomes the strangely difficult task of not stopping it. The cruel part is that nobody ever tells you how long you have to kneel there packing snow before the hill agrees to take over. And so most people, and I genuinely mean the overwhelming majority of people who ever start, quit somewhere deep in that packing phase. They get bored. They get restless. They see a coworker bragging about doubling their money on some coin they cannot even explain. And this slow, quiet, deeply unsexy thing they are doing suddenly feels pathetic by comparison. So they stop. They cash out. Or they just let the contributions quietly slide for a few months, then a year, then somehow forever. And here is the brutal irony that keeps me up at night. They almost always quit in the final stretch, right before the hill was about to take the weight off their hands. The magic was never really in the returns. It was always hidden in the quiet years you refused to quit. Let me make this painfully concrete, because I think the raw numbers are the thing that actually rewires how a person sees this. Imagine a woman we'll call Elena, who starts quietly investing $500 a month at 25 into a plain, boring index fund, averaging about 10% a year. Nothing exotic, no secret strategy, no genius stock picks. Just $500 a month and the discipline to leave it alone. In year one, she has put in $6,000, and her account is worth maybe $6,300, so the market chipped in a whole $300. Underwhelming, almost insulting. Exactly the feeling you had staring at your own screen a minute ago. By year 5, she has contributed $30,000 of her own money, and her account sits at roughly $38,000. The market has added around $8,000 on top, which is finally something real, but she is still very clearly doing the heavy lifting herself. By year 10, she has personally put in $60,000, and her account is worth about $95,000. Now we are getting somewhere, because the market has quietly handed her $35,000 that she never had to earn at a job. But here is where the whole thing stops being cute and starts being genuinely hard to believe. By year 20, Elena has contributed $120,000 total, and her account is worth roughly $340,000, which means compounding, time, and reinvested returns generated over $220,000 that she never personally earned or saved. She put in $1, and the machine quietly handed her back nearly 3. That ratio is not a typo, and it is not a trick. It is simply what 3 patient decades do to a steady stream of ordinary contributions. And by year 30, having contributed $180,000 of her own money across her whole adult life, her account is worth somewhere around $986,000, essentially $1 million. She personally saved $180,000. Compounding created more than $800,000 on top of it. Let that actually land for a second, because it is almost offensive how quiet it is. Over $800,000 that she did not earn, did not hustle for, did not save, generated purely by time and by the decision to leave things alone. And notice that she never once tried to be clever, never chased a hot tip, never timed a single market top or bottom. Now here is the question I really want you to sit with, the one that changes everything once you see it. At what exact point in that 30-year journey did compounding quietly become the primary engine of Elena's wealth? When, precisely, did the hill take the weight from her hands? The answer, roughly, is somewhere around year 12 to 15. And almost nobody can feel it happening while it happens. That is the year when the growth her account earns on its own finally starts to exceed the money she is manually putting in. That is the moment, the real inflection point, the one nobody ever prints on a motivational poster. You are just working, contributing, feeling slightly bored and slightly anxious, and then quietly, without any announcement, the machine flips. And instead of you feeding compounding month after month, compounding turns around and starts feeding you. I want to describe what that flip actually feels like from the inside, because it is almost nothing like what people expect. Most people assume that when compounding finally kicks in, there will be some obvious, cinematic moment. Some morning they wake up to a dramatic overnight jump. But that is simply not how it happens. It is far quieter and far stranger than that. It is more like you slowly start noticing that your account is doing things you did not do. You have a tight month where you skip a contribution entirely, and yet your balance still climbs by $800 on its own. Or you glance at the year-end summary and realize your portfolio returned $12,000 while you only put in 6. The market gave you more than you gave it, and you find yourself thinking, wait, when exactly did that start happening? That quiet, almost disorienting question is the sound of the wealth machine switching on. One of you in the comments on a video like this said it perfectly. The exact moment is when you stop checking your deposits and start noticing your gains. People describe the shock of it the same way over and over, almost word for word, when it finally happens to them. Last year, they say, my portfolio earned more than I did, and I still can't quite believe it actually happened. That single sentence is the entire thesis of everything we are talking about, compressed into a handful of ordinary words. And once that equation flips, the trajectory bends in a way that starts to feel almost unfair. In the beginning, it honestly feels like shoving a massive boulder uphill for pennies, straining against something that barely seems to move. But once you cross that invisible tipping point, the momentum flips so completely that it stops feeling like work and starts feeling like a cheat code. Because now your base is large, and a 10% return on $200,000 is $20,000 in a single year, which is more than many hardworking people manage to save in an entire 12 months of effort. A 10% return on a $500,000 portfolio is $50,000, the exact same percentage producing a radically different life. You did not get smarter. The market did not get more generous. The only thing that changed is that the base finally got big enough to matter. Time just kept doing the one quiet thing it always does, and the size of the pile did the rest. Now, a quick honest word on those returns, because I never want to sell you a fantasy dressed up as a plan. Some years the market hands you a wild 17%, and other years it gives you almost nothing, or even takes a little back. The 10% we keep using is only a long-run average, not a promise, and a soberer year around 8% is completely normal and still plenty. There is a reason so many investors describe crossing $100,000 as the moment the whole game silently changes. It is not magic, and it is not a specific law of finance. It is simply the point where the pile is finally big enough for growth to outrun your own contributions. One person put it beautifully. They started at 42, felt behind for 15 quiet years, and then watched their pot cross 100,000 and seemingly jump 10,000 every time they looked. And this is exactly why the single worst financial decision most people ever make is not picking a bad stock or overpaying for a house. The worst decision, by a wide and painful margin, is starting late. Because every single year you delay does not just cost you that 1 year of contributions, It costs you everything those contributions would have eventually compounded into. It quietly pushes your inflection point further into the future, and it shortens the beautiful runway on the far side of it, the runway where the machine is finally running full speed, and you are simply along for the ride. But here is the part almost nobody talks about, honestly, and I think it matters more than all of the math combined. How do you actually survive the boring years, the quiet years when your balance feels laughably small against the life you are picturing? Because this, right here, is where it truly breaks down for most people, and it is not a failure of understanding. Everybody kind of understands compounding. Where it collapses is in the day-to-day, month-to-month, year-to-year act of continuing when you feel absolutely nothing. So many of you have said the same quiet thing in different words. The hardest part is surviving the years when compounding looks like nothing. I read that same ache in comment after comment, and I need you to hear this clearly. The flatness you feel is not failure. It is the foundation quietly setting. And the honest answer, the thing that actually got me through it, is that you have to change what you are measuring. When your balance is $8,000 and your goal is $1 million, measuring your progress in dollars will crush your motivation every single time. The gap is simply too enormous, and the movement is simply too slow. So you will feel, mathematically and emotionally, like you are failing at something. But there is a different scoreboard you can watch instead, and it changes everything. You can measure your contribution rate, your consistency, the raw number of months you have invested, without once skipping. You can measure the simple fact that your money is in the market right now, working, compounding, growing, even on the nights you cannot feel a thing. You are not measuring the snowball anymore. You are measuring the packing. And every single month you pack is a month the ball gets quietly, invisibly bigger. So reframe these boring years as reps in a gym where nobody is watching, where the real growth is happening long before the mirror ever shows it. There is an old idea I keep coming back to, which is to trust the process instead of tracking the outcome. In the early years you have almost no control over the outcome, because the market is going to do whatever the market wants to do. But you have total, complete control over the process, how much you save, how consistently you show up, and whether you stay in your seat when things get ugly. So obsess over the part you own, and quietly let go of the scoreboard. At least for now, at least until the numbers earn the right to your attention. And speaking of things getting ugly, I would be lying to you if I did not name the single scariest threat to everything we have talked about. The most dangerous thing that can happen in your early compounding years is not actually a market crash itself. In the long run, temporary declines are basically noise, dips on a chart that look terrifying in the moment, and trivial in hindsight. The real danger is that a crash can trigger a wave of fear that pushes you into doing the one thing that genuinely destroys compounding: selling. Because when you sell in a downturn, you lock in your losses, you miss the recovery that almost always follows, and you snap the compounding chain in half. And that unbroken chain is the entire game. Every gain we have talked about depends on nothing more heroic than simply staying in your seat. And history is brutally clear on this point. The market has survived every crash, every recession, every panic, and gone on to carve out brand new highs. Not perfectly timing anything, not cleverly managing anything, just staying, through the boring quiet and the terrifying noise alike. Now I want to zoom out for a moment, because there is a version of this conversation that reaches far beyond your investment account. Compounding, as a principle, quietly governs almost everything in a life that is built slowly instead of bought overnight. Skills compound, knowledge compounds, relationships and reputations compound, small daily habits compound, and every one of them hides the exact same inflection point. The person who reads 20 pages a night notices almost nothing for years, and then quietly wakes up as the most informed person in the room. Think about someone who writes a little every single day for 2 full years before anyone seems to notice. They did not publish 1,000 brilliant pieces. They quietly wrote a few hundred mediocre ones, and the compounded skill did the rest. Or think about learning a language, where the first several months feel almost completely unrewarded no matter how hard you push. You pour in massive effort and can barely order a coffee, and then somewhere around month 8 or 12 the returns quietly begin to outrun the effort. Conversations get easier faster than you are studying, and old knowledge starts accelerating the arrival of new knowledge on its own. I am not telling you this to sound philosophical or to soften the financial point. I am telling you because it completely reframes the boring early years. They are not wasted years. And they were never wasted years. They are foundation years, the quiet years that make every loud year afterward even possible. So let's actually land this thing, because I do not want it to become one more interesting video you nod along to, and then forget. If you are in the early years, the boring years, the packing the snowball years, The single most powerful thing you can do is automate your investing and then walk away. Do not check it every day. Do not tinker with your allocations every time a headline tries to scare you. And do not cash out the moment things feel frightening. Automate the contribution, stay boringly consistent, and protect your time horizon like it is the single most valuable asset you own, because it genuinely is. And yes, taxes will take a real bite along the way, which is exactly why sheltered accounts like a 401k or an IRA matter so much. Every dollar of growth that compounds untaxed is a dollar quietly working a little harder for you than one that gets trimmed every single year. One of the wisest things I ever read in the comments was simple: automate it, and then go spend your actual attention on your career, your family, and your life. If you are in the middle years, 10 or 12 years deep, and you are starting to notice the numbers quietly shift, then pay very close attention to that shift. Watch for the year your growth first approaches and then finally passes your own contributions. And when it happens, mark that moment somewhere private. That is the machine turning on. That is the exact thing you have been quietly building toward all along. It will not feel triumphant when it arrives. It will feel almost anticlimactic. And that quiet anticlimax is exactly what winning looks like here. And if you are starting later, if you are reading this in your 40s or 50s with that familiar tightness settling into your chest, I want to speak to you directly. It is not too late. The math is simply different, and the timeline is more compressed. And yes, you will need to contribute more aggressively than a 25-year-old ever had to. But compounding still works exactly the same way it always has. The inflection point still arrives. And it actually arrives sooner for you than it would for someone who started young. Because a larger contribution builds a heavy snowball faster. And there is genuinely no version of this story where starting later is somehow worse than never starting at all. The best possible day to start was a decade ago. And the second best possible day, with no close competition at all, is the ordinary one you are living right now. Here is the thing I keep circling back to. The piece I believe sits underneath absolutely all of it. Compounding is invisible. You cannot see it working. You cannot feel it in real time. And it will never once send you a notification or a little hit of dopamine. It just works quietly and relentlessly, day after day, month after month, taking whatever you have given it and multiplying it, then multiplying the multiplied amount, and doing it all again. And the people who build genuine lasting wealth are almost never the lottery winners, or the overnight success stories, or the ones who got lucky on a single wild bet. They are the quiet, patient people who understood one simple thing: the machine exists, it takes years to switch on, and their only real job was to stay out of its way. You already know about compounding, nearly everyone does, and knowing about it was never actually the hard part. The real question is whether you trust it enough to stay seated through the long, silent years when it feels like absolutely nothing is happening. Whether you can hold those boring years with enough patience and enough quiet faith in the math to carry you all the way to the inflection point. Because on the far side of that point, the hill finally takes over, the machine finally feeds you, and the hardest part is already behind you. So start if you have not started, stay if you already have. And above all, trust the machine to do the quiet work you will never see. If this gave you something worth holding on to, take a second to hit that like button. Leave a comment with where you are in your own journey, and subscribe so the next one finds you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.